and welcome to Right Talk with Mike Lee. Welcome to the umpteenth edition of my show. I am honored and privileged to have as my guest my favorite pastor in the whole wide world. His name is Corey Tabor. He's my favorite pastor because he married myself and my wife.
Yes, I did. I didn't marry y'all, but I did do the wedding.
I got married. I've been married a few times.
Yeah.
But this is, in all honesty, I've been married once.
Yeah.
And that was the wedding you performed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Corey.
Thank you, man. I appreciate being here.
Tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Corey Tabor. I am the president of Triple I Coaching, LLC, which is a life coaching and organizational coaching company. So we inform, instruct, and inspire people to fulfill their purpose. So I do speaking, writing, and consulting through this organization. And then I'm also working now as the director of development with The Man in Me, which is an organization that helps to strengthen and empower men and fathers and husbands to be better men, fathers and husbands. So I'm looking forward to the ways that we're going to be able to continue to impact our community through the resources that we raise, and writing grants and raising money for this organization is really important to me.
So what is your relationship to Man and Me? That's Isaac Grove's organization.
Yeah, Isaac Grove and I live on the same street. We come to find out, actually, that Isaac's grandfather was my pastor growing up. And my dad performed him and his mother and father's wedding. We didn't know this at the time, but here we are 30 years later working together to try to make a difference with young men here in our city.
So when did you meet Isaac?
I met Isaac 2 years ago when we built our house in Boehner. Yeah.
I met Isaac probably about 5 or 6 years ago, because he used to have the Man and Me meetings in the recreation room of some project down here in Austin.
Yeah, Booker T. Washington, they do the iDads group.
Yeah.
On Tuesday and Wednesday nights that Joshua Banks and Housing Authority work together with the city to bring about. And so they've been doing that for years now. And then now we're offering our Man Talks every first Saturday from 10 to 11:30, where men can come and learn together and then grow together in conversation and connecting. And we're doing a Man Time on third Fridays, where we just get a chance to hang out and be together. We played Top Golf a couple weeks ago, and to see all of the businesses that guys are developing, from financial advisors to people who got vending machines, people who are in construction, and people who are doing financial coaching. And the great thing about it is these men come together, and it's not a competition. It's really collaboration. Everybody's saying, what can we do together to make our community better? And that's what the Man in Me is all about.
I've always supported Isaac in his endeavors. I think my wife arranged for him one time to make a presentation down there at Gary Job Corps Center when she was working there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have attended. I know he had a movie out. What was the name of that movie?
The movie's called The Man in Me documentary.
The Man in Me documentary.
Yeah. So we did the screening last year. Now we're showing it at a film festival on the 14th of February, from 1:15 till about 2:30, 3 o'clock. And the Austin Film School is actually rented a theater for 250 people, and they're giving credit to students.
And then he had Isaac also had he had something over here at
ACC Eastview.
No, George at the Carver.
Oh yeah. So we've done a lot of stuff at the Carver.
There's another theater down in owned by the city down there on I can't think of the name of the street right now.
The Daughtery Arts Theater. Yeah, where they did like a man talk.
Right.
You know, we get a chance to let guys talk about relationships and really just be real. I think that's one of the things that Isaac and the Man in Me have been able to do, is to give men safe places to be themselves and to be real, to share what they're really thinking, what they're really feeling. And it's affirming for guys, because there's not a lot of places we can be ourselves fully. When we go to work, a lot of times we have to put on the face to do what we need to do, or, you know, at home sometimes even many of us are having to work to kind of be, you know, what we need to be.
I think the first time I met Isaac was probably on the Trailer Park Show with Pokey.
Oh yeah, he told me we'd been on that show. Yeah, with you and Pokey. Yeah.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I know that one of the things that I believe that you and I have spoken quite a bit, because we're both conservative black men, and one of the things that hurts me a lot is, politically speaking, what's happened in our community as a result of these so-called liberal help African American policies is the black family has been destroyed. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important for us to understand the impact that the lack of men in the home has on our children. Tony Evans, who's done a lot of research in this area, pastor in Dallas, runs the Urban Alternative, has just looked at the incarceration rates, the poverty rates, the teen pregnancy rates, the dropout rates are all impacted by whether or not a father's in the home. And granted, not every marriage that happens works out, and not every couple that has a baby works out. But statistically, we're seeing African-American men are involved in their children's lives more than any other culture out there. When we look at Hispanic fathers and white fathers, black men are actually more involved. CDC did a study on that in 2013, and I think what the man in me does is it empowers black men to think about, even if you're not with the mother anymore, how do you make sure you're involved in your child's life?
In a sense, to me, Corey, what has happened is the black man is being removed from the home, and the government being substituted.
True.
And I think that, to me, that's no more clear than in the policies of the HUD policies that, a woman can receive assistance so long as a man is not in the house.
Right. It's financially beneficial to not have him there. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I talked to a woman a few weeks ago at a school where I do some of my work with speaking to students and helping them make good decisions. She said, my husband doesn't work because if he does, I would lose benefits. He's an able-bodied man, but he doesn't work because the only way they can get the benefits from the government is to not have his income added. And his income, based on his education and based on his experience, is not as much as what the government is providing. And then when you think about the way that they, in the 50s and 60s, began to put us in these projects, the goal, quote unquote, was to provide, affordable housing, but in the end, it limited the exposure of our young people to the opportunities to get to know about careers outside of what they saw in the hood. So, you never got a chance to see a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. You were always looking at either somebody who worked in food service or somebody who worked in caring for homes or somebody who was engaged in a drug situation. So all of that is strategic. Because it keeps us from being able to see the potential to be able to get out of our current situations.
And then another development I think that's happened is so much is put in the atmosphere of hating government that our young men don't know the opportunities, and I'm included in this one, about the opportunity that is presented by the military.
Right.
For example, I wish, looking in retrospect, I wish I had gone in the military after I got out of law school. Because I got out of law school when I was 24.
Yeah, you could have been in the JAG.
I wasn't even thinking about
paid
it.
off school loans.
I didn't even know about that.
Right. The exposure to that information.
Fortunately, when I was in law school and college, I never took out loans.
That's good.
Yeah, they thought I was smart.
Yeah.
I don't know where they got that.
They gave you a little extra. They gave you some scholarships. That's good. I mean, a lot of people are not in that situation, and I think, especially the branches of the military where you have opportunities to do things that are not combat related. I mentor a young lady who's a student at the University of Texas, and she's getting ready to go to the military, and they're going to give her an assignment where she'll be maybe working at a hotel, hosting people who live on the base, or she might be working in kind of an administrative role. There's many opportunities that are non-combat related when you've gotten your degree and you're able to move in as an officer on the front end.
But in our community, we've almost, and I'm speaking of black community, we've almost become anti-military, which in many ways can be anti-opportunity.
It can
because that was a way for opportunity for many black men, many.
And my dad, made a decision to go to the Air Force instead of continuing college. When he was able to go to college, he had an uncle who said, I'll pay for you to go to school, but he really felt like the military was an option for him. He did 20 years in the military and then went back with his GI Bill and got his degree when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And for me, the example I saw, I said, if my dad can go to school with a family and a full-time job and get his degree, when I came to UT, I had no excuses. But he took advantage of that opportunity the government gave him, and he's been able to benefit from it as a result.
But now it seems like in the atmosphere there's so much just Colin Kaepernick bullshit.
Well, one of the things I think people misunderstand is, first of all, Colin didn't ask for the attention. Colin just sat down. And then a reporter asked him, why are you sitting down? He said, well, because I feel like there's a lot of negative things that are happening in our community, and this is my way of communicating it. And then I think between the media and the misunderstandings that a lot of people had about his intentions and his motives, I think it got blown out of proportion and really communicated in ways that really weren't the intention. Colin never meant to disrespect the flag, and that's why he talked with guys who were in the military about what to do. And they said, instead of sitting, why don't you kneel? He made adjustments to his protest, but the key is he wanted to bring attention to what was happening in our communities that people don't want to acknowledge. We are finding ourselves being incarcerated at a higher percentage rate. We are finding ourselves being pulled over at a higher rate. I think we know. I think we know, but I think a lot of people outside of the black community don't want to acknowledge it.
You know what's beginning to happen though? What has been in the dark is slowly coming to light. Mm-hmm. And I say, the example I like to use is in San Marcos. I have information and data that I'm using in court to fight actual racism. Mm-hmm. They have determined, it's been numerically determined that they are arresting black folks or something for minor traffic violations and putting them in jail, and for the same alleged offense or letting white people go, citing and releasing them.
Yeah, and that's not surprising to us.
No, we've been saying this for years.
Right. Yes.
But it's easy to deny something when you have no proof.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you, I was shocked.
Yeah.
That this actual proof existed.
Yes.
And there's an article in the paper about it. Mm-hmm. And I have since talked to a commissioner, and I met with the person who actually created the data at the end, because the commissioner was asking questions about why do we have so many people in jail.
Right.
And in Texas, they've been able to cite and release for minor traffic offenses since 2007. But they wasn't doing that in San Marcos.
Right. And
politically speaking, it irks me because I'm a Republican. I'm not ashamed of it. You're the chaplain for the RPT, and you and I met a while back. Yeah. I think I may have introduced you to Dickie. I don't even know, but it's been a while. And in my profession, in the legal profession, it's kind of said by other lawyers that for example, in red counties they prosecute minor possession of marijuana cases, but in blue counties they don't. And so they're hanging on us the moniker of being racist.
Right.
And when you come up with data like that in Hayes County, that's now the commissioner who released the report was a Democrat. But the commissioner who started asking questions that made the report come about was a Republican. But you don't know, you can't get that unless you dig into it like I did.
Right.
And my thing is, as far as the party to which I owe my allegiance, which is the Republican Party, we need to address that and confront it.
Right. And I think what we've all seen in our past is that the best things happen when we work together, and I think the example you just shared, people on both sides had information that could be helpful to getting to the solution. And, we can talk to people who are affiliated with the party we work with. We can also get folks to communicate with the folks in the party that we're not affiliated with. In the end, I miss the civil discourse that we used to have compared to the polarized media that we have now. I miss the ability to be diplomats and work to bring about a solution together as compared to feeling like everybody's got to be in their corner. We got to take our ball and go home. You know what I'm saying? That's the mindset that this current political climate has created, when the solution is going to come when we can come together and say what's best for the people in our communities.
I think we've lost focus. The fact is, and my focus has always been, hopefully my purpose for having this show was to try to help the community in general, and the black community in particular.
Yes.
Because if the black community is drag on situations, if you make that community better, you make the whole community better.
We said this you've been telling me this for 5-6 years now. And it's true. It's true. When we as a people do well, the country does well. And statistically, we're seeing that financially right now. The African-American population is doing really well. compared to previous administrations, and the whole economy is rolling right. Now, part of that is cyclical. We know economics. We've studied economics. We know there's a cycle involved, but also is that we're not being penalized for being successful. See, when you have policies that penalize people for being successful, then people start hiding their money in different places. They start pulling back on what they're contributing back into society, because what I know is the government can't spend my money as well as I can. They can't invest my money as well as I can. So if we send our money to Washington, 3 years later they're going to come back with a solution. Well, on the ground, we had a solution with the church, the nonprofits, the community organizations. We could have done that in 6 months when it took them in 3 years. And that's the reason that limited government is important, is because the local communities and the local organizations, they know what needs to happen. I was at the African American Youth Harvest Foundation fundraiser Saturday night with the Man and Me group, and you're sitting there looking at a man like Michael Lofton, who has literally invested his life to impact these young people in East Austin. Michael can do more in East Austin in 6 months with the government's money than the government can do 6 years down the road, because they're not here. They're not looking face to face with these students, these teachers, these parents, these kids,
Well, limited government empowers the people.
Exactly.
Locally.
Yes, and the people are the solution.
Empowers the people.
Yeah, the people are the solution. When I was a journalism major at UT for a semester, Dr. Marvin Olasky was the professor. He's now the editor of the World Magazine, and he communicated that the people in the community were always meant to be the solution. It was never meant for the government to solve our problems. The government got involved at a level that they did because they didn't trust the people in the community to take advantage of the opportunities that were available. So when you look at the Bush administration, what he did with the faith-based initiatives, he said, okay, we got money with the government. Why don't we take this money, invest it in churches and faith-based nonprofits that are working with folks who need employment, that are working with folks who need child care, that are working with folks who need food. And, Dr. Evans built amazing opportunities in his community, Kirby John Caldwell in Houston. They help people become economically empowered through entrepreneurship. They help students get educated. They developed all types of systems because they knew what the problems were, and they had the people that could provide the solution. So you got the people resources, then you put the financial resources together, you can make a huge difference.
Well, the other thing that's always interested me, and I always took an opposite view. I was probably the only black conservative on my campus when I was in college, probably.
I can imagine.
And probably the only one in law school, too.
I can imagine.
Because I just asked questions. And, when I was an undergrad, guys said, let's go out and take the flag down. I said, wait a minute. Are we going to get credit for that? If they gave a credit hour for it, I'd be the first one up there taking down the flag.
Gotcha, yeah.
But I would, you're there to graduate, not to take down flags and all that crap.
Yeah, I remember being.
And then what about when you do it? After you're done, then what?
Yeah, exactly. What are we going to do now? I remember being at UT, and we had a situation where a professor said some negative things about people of color, and there was a protest on campus. Jesse Jackson came down to speak. And I went and listened to him until my class started. Because I figured when Jesse leave, I still got to get an A. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's a combination of both ends. I mean, we have to make a decision to say, okay, what do I need to do to prepare myself to impact my community? But ultimately, what do I need to do what I need to do to help my community?
It just seems to me African Americans get caught up in emotion.
We are an emotional people.
And there's nothing wrong with being emotional, yes, but understand what time it is and where you... how to get from A to B to C.
Yeah, it's a common.
Don't forget that.
The feeling is important. Inspiration is important, but it can't override the facts. Like you said, we were talking earlier, the numbers speak themselves, and that's what I appreciate about an organization like Measure. With Mimi Styles, they put the data with our narrative to speak the language of the people who make decisions. Because here's the thing. Oftentimes we as people come into a city council meeting or we come into a school board meeting and we complain and talk about all the stuff we were experiencing experientially, anecdotally. Yeah. But she started working with data, numbers. Numbers speak. So they've seen results with the police department. They've seen results with the school boards. They've seen results with the city councils, because those people in positions of power are looking for the data.
I believe the city council in Austin came to a similar conclusion regarding the treatment of minor offenders, traffic offenders. I think he came to the same conclusion as did the people in Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, and when I first came to Texas, no, especially Central Texas, my first came to Texas, I went to SMU law school. When I came to Central Texas, Austin, the first thing I did was go to the library and read about the lynching history of Central Texas. Because I wanted to understand where I was.
Right.
And this is one of the things I'll probably say in Commissioner's Court tomorrow. You know, the idea that we're talking about racism and treating black people equally in 2020 when they tried to solve the problem during Reconstruction after the Civil War more than a century ago, it's a damn shame that we're talking about this.
I mean,
but I'll be in Commissioner's Court talking about it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's one of those
because
things.
It needs to be done.
It does, and I think people assume because we're making progress that we've arrived, and there's a difference. You know, you can be on a road headed to your destination, and you're on the journey, but you're not there yet. And I think we as a people are on the journey, and we've made some progress. Obviously, there are opportunities available to us that we haven't had in the past, but at the same time, the equity isn't completely there yet. The positions of opportunity, the power, equality is not there yet. And more than that, our voice is still not fully heard at the level that it needs to be and respected at the level that it needs to be.
Well, I think that's partly our fault for the lack of organization on our part.
Yes.
Because there's nothing in the world stopping us from organizing.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Especially in this modern technological age of social media.
I mean, you got social media, you got webinars, you got all ways to communicate. Here's what I found out when I did the research. And I didn't start knowing a lot about our history until I came to college. My first black teacher was Dr. Kevin Foster at the University of Texas. I had never had a black teacher in high school, middle school, elementary school, and I had never studied black history before until I came to college. But what I found out, and then when I went to Kenya and Ethiopia, I found out that we as a people historically are a collective people. We work together to solve problems. But what happened was when we came to America, not by choice, but by force, we were stripped of our language. We were stripped of our positions, our titles, our influence. We had people who were kings and queens that came here and they were, picking cotton, right? So what happened is over time we adopted the American mindset of individuality. Dr. King said, it is a travesty to ask a man to pull himself up by his own bootstraps when you haven't given him a boot or a strap to do so. And so it's like now people have said, well, I'm going to get mine, you get yours. We leave our communities, we go to the burbs, we get our homes, and then we think, okay, I can't really be where my people are if I want to get to where I want to go. And that's what's hurt us is that many of us have wanted to have a mindset of, let me do what I need to do, and then let me focus on getting the credit. And I think when we don't care about who gets the credit, but we're more focused on making a difference, we can see the long-term impact that we desire as a community. And it's more in line with what we see on the African continent. It's when I went to Africa, man, and I saw people living on a compound where they had a school, they had a church, they had a community development center, they had a farm, they had all these things working together, a water well. It's like everything was working together to benefit the whole community, as compared to the mindset in America typically is, let me build my silo.
Let me get mine.
Let me get mine. I'm going to build my silo. I'm going to build my structure. I'm going to build my stability. And then we'll worry about everybody else later once I build mine. And that's just not the way we were wired. That's not the way we were developed as a people. And that's not what made us great prior to coming to this country. And it's not what's going to make us great in the future. We got to work together.
Unity is the key.
And I think what people don't understand, I say this all the time with the RPT, oneness and sameness are not the same thing. Like, I don't have to be a lawyer to be on the same page with you, right?
Right.
I don't have to be black to be on the same page with a black person. A friend of mine I'm going to meet with in March in Madison, Wisconsin, Dr. Alex G. has developed a program called Justified Anger in Madison, Wisconsin, where they are helping non-people of color, people of a majority culture, determine and understand the history of our people, and then how do they begin to advocate on behalf of us? Because here's the thing. Like you say, when the black people do well, the whole community does well. you got C-suite people bringing their whole C-suites in to learn Black history so that they can start to advocate. Because if you're in a position of power and influence, you got the ability to change the game for people who have the skills but haven't been given access.
Well, one of the things I think, and one of the reasons I work with the Republican Party and have for years, and have been a self-described conservative since I was 16, 17 years old, because it was the only thing that made sense. Just like now, it makes no sense to reject God and to advocate or support or endorse abortion, the killing of babies in the womb, especially when the killing of babies in the womb disproportionately affects Black people.
Right.
That's insane. That's political insanity to me.
I mean, you think about it. We're killing our voting power.
Yeah.
It's completely eliminating our voting power. When you look at other people of color who have made decisions to continue reproducing and procreating, over time, they get a voting majority. And they're able to move their community towards where they want to go. And it's a countercultural and counterintuitive to accomplishing our long-term goals when we just keep taking people out of the voting pool.
If you're just looking out for number one.
Yeah. I mean, what's the number? What is it like? Over
because to me,
300,000?
As far as I'm concerned, white liberals don't care about a Black life unless it can vote. And when I look at the Black Lives Matter movement, to me, that's a bunch of bullshit too. I say that they gonna may get on me at the station about saying bullshit. But I heard a senator say bullshit on Fox News the other night.
It's getting more common.
But it is bullshit. And African Americans go for that.
I think what's happening is people want to be valued. They want to be heard. They want to be seen as equally important. But what happens is when you push it protest-wise, but you don't push it politically, you don't push it financially. I mean, African-American community puts over $1 trillion in the economy. But where are we putting it?
In their economy.
Their economy. Black dollar stays in our community for 6 hours. So Black businesses have to live off of non-Black people because we got this mentality that a Black business isn't as good as a white business or an Asian business or a Hispanic business. We won't buy from our own car dealers. We won't support our own restaurants. If we have one bad experience, other than the barbershop and the beauty shop and the church, those are the three things we support: barbershop, beauty shop, and the
barbecue.
Church. And barbecue. We do support barbecue. But we'll go buy their barbecue too.
Yeah.
And the prices are too high. We see ourselves, we want an economic discount on something that should be even more valuable to us because it's ours. It's ours. You know, when you look at the HBCU communities and how often they're private schools where it may cost a little bit more to go to school there, but the communities, the people I know who've been to HBCUs have come out with a level of confidence and a level of support from their community, believing they could do it because they know their professor isn't going to let them fail. And not meaning they're going to give them an opportunity to not do their work. If I got to come and be with you after school, if I got to come and be with you in the morning before class, you are my responsibility. We're going to partner together to get you where you need to be. And a lot of times we will demean what is ours because we believe the mindset that Willie Lynch had was if I can make them think that what they have isn't as good, I can separate them based on skin tone, based on hair length, hair texture, all those things, we can keep them enslaved for over 300 years. And it's happening. It's happening. And the same thing's happening politically.
Except the slavery now is more, I see it more as mental slavery.
It's totally mental slavery. Completely. A lack of information, a lack of desire to know information, a lack of desire to be exposed to concepts that haven't been a part of our upbringing. I have a good friend, Ronnie Washington, who runs his own organization called Higher Ed Path. And the whole goal is to talk about how do we help people go to school without being in debt, right? So he's teaching about the basic fundamental principles of how do you make more than you earn, make more than you spend, earn more than you spend. How do you develop multiple streams of income? How do you let your money make money for you? But many times we have this mindset, I'm just going to live check to check. I'm going to work hard, work a job. We don't want to take the risk involved in being able to get something that doesn't always guarantee a result. And that's a mindset of the way our education system is built. It's built to teach you, get a job, and work in the pyramid scheme of people who got more money than you. When in reality, we can all be entrepreneurs and make our own money.
All the way down to the chairs being in a row.
In a row. It's not natural for us. Again, when I go to Africa, man, there is no gifted and talented class. Mm-hmm. If you're gifted and talented, your job is to get the rest of the kids to where you are. Mm-hmm. You're a mentor. You are a teacher's assistant. But here, we bring all these individuals to
take the gifts and talent and put them over here.
Put them over here where all the talent is over here, and then all these kids over here struggling. I mean, you think about the way they've set up our magnet system in the schools. I mean, you got schools like Lhasa on the top floor of LBJ. You got kids who are being bused into a school system to get, top 10 education, and then you got other people who in the same community not getting access to the similar concept. Same thing with Keelan. I mean, and I'm saying, and it creates not only an economic mindset difference, but it creates a value-based difference because people don't feel as valuable there if they're not in those magnet institutions.
It can also create unnecessary tension between individuals.
Exactly.
That divides them.
It divides them when they could be working together. Why couldn't somebody who's got a passion for math and science come into a classroom and make it more plain for students who struggle with math and science? The only reason they can't do it is because they're so focused on getting to where they want to be that they don't want to make a decision to help us get to where we need to be.
Hung up in survival of the fittest.
Get mine, you get yours.
Yeah. But back to Man and Me. Mm-hmm. Isaac has done incredible things.
Yes.
But he's been in it for a while. He's paid some dues.
He's paid some dues, man. It's 6, 7, 8 years of just being consistent, showing up.
He was. I remember I spoke to Isaac and he said he had got some funding from the city to do some things. Mm-hmm. And I was glad to hear that, because sometimes government funding for a nonprofit can be crucial. There was another organization here called Melge with Latrice Cook. Mm. She got some funding from the city, and she says it was more a pain in the behind than anything else. But I thought it was when I was on the African American Resource Advisory Commission here in Austin. One of my goals was to see that she got funding, because I believe that her getting funding from that source would make it easier for her to get funding from other sources.
This is true. I just wrote a grant for the sex ed program that I run here in the city with the source. And Lifeguard, we see 15,000 students in 30 schools, 8 school districts. We just got a grant for $250,000 to do what we do. We've been doing what we're doing, but that funding allows us to pay people what they're worth. It allows us to retain talent. It allows us to be creative in our programming and to advance beyond just what we teach in the classroom to training parents, to training students to be student leaders. And so a lot of times people have the vision, but they need provision, and you can do personal fundraising all you want to, but if you're in a community that doesn't have resources, it's really hard to do. But when the government can take the money and invest it, this is what I've discovered. It's almost like the mindset of when we support missionaries. I support missionaries financially because they are where I am not, and they can do what I cannot because I got to work a job, be with a family, that kind of thing. Same thing is true. When people support the Man and Me financially, they are basically putting their money in a place where the Man and Me can do what they can do for people who can't do it themselves. I mean, not everybody can show up on a Tuesday and Wednesday at Booker T. Washington projects and meet with men and help them become better fathers. Not everybody can host a Master in Manhood conference and get 300 people to show up at Austin Community College.
Nobody can do that cookout that we do.
Yeah, the family cookout that happens. Yeah,
the cookout
300-400 people
summer.
Getting fed. Yeah, 300 or 400 people getting fed. Men being with their wives and their children and
people bonding.
And seeing the value of businesses that are developing and seeing the value of our community. I think for our children, like for my kids, I got an almost 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. And what I realized, like the family cookout for me was an opportunity for them to see their people in a positive light. The media always positions us the way they want us to be seen. But when we, again, create our own events, we create our own narrative, we're able to position it to where my daughter can look up to an African-American woman who has natural hair and celebrate that. She can look to an African-American man who is being intentional with his son or his daughter. She can get an example of, seeing a husband and a wife together having fun, playing dominoes or spades. They can see, the strongman competition and see how men communicate or experience their strength. And I think all of that, the ocular demonstration of our community is so important because we don't forget images.
You know what I always hoped, Corey? And when I was doing outreach here in Travis County heavily, I was always hoped that the RPT or people affiliated with the RPT would see the value or opportunity presented by that kind of event.
Yeah.
But it never happened.
Yeah, it's challenging.
And I don't know what I know. It's tough.
I'm gonna tell you what goes on oftentimes in these type of political situations. I've learned is they look at what can they do to get the most bang for the most buck, right? So their mindset is, okay, in the end, it's about voters.
It's not a good investment.
In the end, it's like how much can we move the needle to get people elected, right? And that's kind of what the bottom line is. And so if they don't see the needle moving to get more people elected, get more people voting, then they don't put their money there. They don't put their energy behind it. And I don't think it's that they don't value it. I think they have the motive and the purpose primarily of getting people elected.
Right. It's all about getting votes, getting people elected.
And the only way it's going to be supported long term, things like this by parties, is if people within the party speak up and say, we're not going to vote for y'all unless y'all continue to support what we need to do. Because that's what speaks to political parties is voting. And one of the things that concerns me about traditionally what has been African Americans voting for the Democratic Party is the party gets to vote without doing anything for our community.
But I think this president probably sees an opportunity. I think he has a real desire to do what's right, and I think it's reflected in his policies. I think that's more black. There are more BMWs than Obama even dreamed possible. That's black men working, and I think that's why. I think it's important to me. Symbolically, he pardoned Jack Johnson, which some Obama didn't even think about. He's freed more black people from prison than Obama even thought about. They did criminal justice reform, which can benefit us and the black community.
Yeah, working with Kanye's wife on that.
Yes, I mean, whatever it takes, man.
Yeah, I think, and I think the challenge that many people in our community have is they read his tweets and his sound bites more than they look at the policy and the impact. You know, if you read the numbers, and granted, I understand because a lot of stuff he tweets and says doesn't fit who we are as a people. But when you look at the impact and the policy components of it, and if you took the face off of it, you took the name off of it, and you just looked at the results, it would cause people to take a second look.
And I think that's one of the reasons Brexit is gaining a little strength.
Brexit? What's that?
It's black people exiting the Democratic Party.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Not the British one.
Yeah, Brexit. Yeah, I don't know if you heard about the event they had in Atlanta. You know, with the African American community that Mr. Trump did.
The Trump a gathering of blacks in Atlanta? I was there.
Exactly, and Texas was represented, from what I hear, very well.
Yeah, I was there.
One of the most represented
I was
states
there. James White was there.
Yep.
JT was
there. Yep. He told me about it.
I think I saw Broden there too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think here's the thing that people don't understand oftentimes.
My wife was there with me also.
Yeah, good. Yeah, the thing that people don't understand oftentimes, this is what I learned working the elections. Certain people talk, certain people vote. And they don't always say what they're going to vote about. They don't always say what they're going to do in that poll. But the poll, exit polls don't tell the truth about what's going on because not everybody's going to talk about what they did in the poll because it's private. So here's what I think is really important, too, though, with this next election, and everybody needs to understand this. In Texas, there is no more straight ticket voting available. So what that means is all of the elected positions that are at the bottom of the ballot, beyond the president, vice president, senator, congressman, getting down into the judges, getting down into
JPs and all
justice of the peace, those kind of. These are the people that make policies and decisions about our legal system that affect our people. So your vote at the presidential level will be one vote. It's going to be equally one vote because most people are going to vote for president. But when you get down into the judge, the JPs, the commissioners, that's going to be like 4 or 5 votes because people don't stop voting. And so it's important, one, that those folks who are planning to run for those positions get their people out. But 2, it's important that we educate ourselves and that we vote all the way down the ballot because you will have even more than equal representation if you vote all the way through the ballot.
Down ballot.
Yeah, exactly.
Down ballot.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I think when I think about the political impact that we can have as a people, we got to take the time to educate ourselves. We got to take the time to look at the facts and not just look at faces. Most people vote based on personality, based on how a person looks on camera, based on their ads.
Based on name recognition.
Those kind of things. That's not a good way to vote.
The name they see.
I mean, the most popular person in school could win student body president, but they don't know how to lead. So you have to ask yourself the question, can this person change my family situation? Can they put in policy that's going to help me and my people get further along? And that's not always a face. That's not always a soundbite. It's not always somebody who can perform well in a debate. Often it's somebody who knows how to work with people behind the scenes to get things done. And they know how to make a deal.
Well, I try to do a lot of things behind the scenes, actually. You know that.
Yes.
I do. I've done a little bit behind the scenes.
Yes.
But
that's where the real work is done.
Well, I try to do things that make things come out right. That's why my show is Right Talk. I try to get it right.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes I get it right. Every once in a while I get it wrong. But 99% of the time I get it right.
And the key is to realize when we do get it wrong and get better.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people now, I've eliminated the word failure from my vocabulary. I don't believe in failure anymore. I believe in growth opportunities. If it didn't work the way I anticipated and I grew from it, I didn't fail. I won. How many businesses do we know, business people we know, that had a business that failed? Every business that fails, if you learn from it, it's going to help you be successful down the road. How many elected officials do we know didn't win an election for 5, 10, 15 years, didn't win, even President Bush lost initial levels of elections before he ended up working, in the State Department and eventually becoming a representative and then eventually becoming a president. It's all about, did you grow from it? Did you learn from it?
Well, I'm looking forward to this next election because this one is I think the last one was highly crucial. This one will be not quite as crucial, I don't think. But I think this one will. I'm not anticipating that this one will be as close as the last one.
I mean, the last one.
I believe this election is going to come down. I have two political predictions. This election, I believe, is going to come down to Texas, and the other one is Governor Abbott's going to run for president. I've been saying it a couple of years now.
That'll be interesting. I mean, Texas has been very successful in accomplishing their goals of growing business. You got a lot of companies moving here because we make it work for them. You know what I'm saying? They got incentives to be able to do well. You got the no state income tax, economic viability, land. Even though the cost of living in Austin is extremely high compared to what we're used to, it's still affordable compared to many other parts of the country. People who are working in the technological field in San Francisco are paying a whole lot more to live than they are here in Austin. And so their money goes longer, or goes further. So I think this next election is going to be really about, in the end, what do independent voters decide to do? Because I think Republicans are going to do what they're going to do. Democrats are going to do what they're going to do. It's going to be about a 5 to 7% independent voter that's going to swing the situation. And we could see another election where there's a popular vote winner that's different from the Electoral College winner. And this is what people have to understand about politics. In America, the popular vote on the federal level doesn't mean much. You can have tons of people stack up and win in certain parts of the country, but it's, did you get those electoral votes? And until we have a system where you get a percentage of the votes based upon how many votes you have, it's always going to be people focusing on those swing votes, those swing states that could potentially go one way. And then it's going to be people trying to move states like Texas towards being more and more blue. But in the end, if Texas is 1% red is all the electoral college votes red. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, man. We've got the primary coming up literally a month from tonight.
Yeah.
And this is what people need to do. If you want to make a difference in your political environment, you need to go vote. Then you need to go to your precinct convention. Then you need to go to your county convention. And then you need to get to your state convention, because that's where you're going to be able to impact the platform, the policies. Voting in the polls is just the first step. If you want to have a voice, you got to go through the process of taking the time to be at that precinct convention. I remember in 2014, that was the day I think it iced over, and so we had precinct conventions at like 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
In my Senate district, 8 people showed up. Well, automatically I was in the county convention. At the county convention, it wasn't a whole lot of people to compete against to get to the state convention. And then once you get to the state convention, you got an opportunity to really vote who's going to be in your executive committees. You got a chance to vote on who's going to be able to be involved at your state level and at your national level. And I think that you don't have to want to be a politician to be actively engaged in politics.
To participate, really. Because
we live in
voting is not really participating.
It's the first step of participating, but it's not the best way to fully participate.
No, I'd say I'd like to give an example. My baby brother, who has a PhD in adult education and philosophy in North Carolina, he had never even heard of a precinct convention.
Exactly, and that's a lot of people.
And to me, that's the problem, is that we generally are not sufficiently informed or educated as to the process.
And I think that's the responsibility we have, is to engage in outreach where we educate our people about what it takes to get involved. And that may mean doing things like this on this program, just talking through the process. Like between now and March, you might need to have a show that explains like how you get engaged at each level. And then, even through YouTube and podcasts and blogs, getting the word out, because I think most people look at it like, I don't have time for that.
Because I think, Corey, I'm confident that if the black community was really informed as to how the process works and what's in it and where platforms come from, which is what happens in the precinct conventions and the county conventions, if they got involved in that level, even those that don't vote conservative may vote conservative, because they'll see some things that just don't make sense.
Right. And that's the thing. Again, I've always said, if you take the letters off of the policy and you just lay it on the table, do you believe in families? Do you believe in a person's right to live? Do you believe in a person's ability to earn a quality living? Do you believe that people who work should be compensated fairly? Do you believe that folks should have access to quality health care at an affordable rate? See, these are all things that if they didn't have a letter on them, we would make decisions differently. But we believe often the ideas that are fed to us by this tool.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of reading and instead of really asking the question, what is best for my community? Is it best for my community that I go to work? Or is it best for my community that I get a long-term handout? Now, I've never said welfare shouldn't be a positive opportunity to help you in the season of when you need assistance.
But it wasn't made to be permanent.
It wasn't meant to be permanent. It wasn't meant to be generational. And there's nothing about the way we're wired that tells us stay home and take a check. I talked to a guy who was disabled, and he said, man, the government want to give me a disability check. It's not enough money to live on, but it's too much money to not have. He said, I can't even walk well, but I go to work because I'm enslaved when I don't, because they only going to give me so much. But I can go out there and make more than they can give me. With my limited physical ability and my mental capacity, I'm not limited in what I can do. And that's the beauty of America, man. Being in other parts of the world, when you see there is no middle class, and when you see folks who are literally slotted in the 8th grade, you're either going to be in a trade or you're going to be in the academic world. And you realize, man, we have an opportunity here to earn unlimited financial potential. I can drive Lyft and make $4,000 a month if I wanted to. Just all I need is the asset of a car. They even have ways now where you can lease a car from Lyft, pay them a payment. You don't even have to own a car. And that's economic development. That is economic empowerment. That is that's freedom.
That's opportunity.
Yeah, it's opportunity. That's all it's about is opportunity. My mindset is this. Why would I ask the government to do something for me I can do for myself? Why would I do that? That doesn't make much human sense. And then if you're a believer at all, it doesn't make biblical sense because the scriptures teach us the importance of if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. He's worse than an infidel if he doesn't take care of his family. I grew up with parents who always had more than one job, who took their education. Even my mom's limited 2-year degree, she didn't finish at Prairie View, but she always thought about how can I earn more? How can I make more? And now we had an opportunity between the business opportunities that are available today. You don't even have to have a 4-year degree to make 6 figures. You just got to know how to work hard, and you got to know how to access the people that have access to information and resources.
Now, my mom and dad, I think my mom went to maybe the 6th or 7th grade. I think my dad went to the 4th grade. They were sharecroppers in Mississippi. But they always emphasized to us, you hit the books. You hit the books.
Education is key.
No, if you hit the books, you had an easier life. You had an easier life than if you did.
Right. People like to criticize Ben Carson a lot because when he ran for president, he had a hard time communicating what his values really were. But if you read his book, America the Beautiful, he explains how the ability for his mom kept him off the TV and had him read. His mom couldn't read, but she made him write 2 book reports a week. She was just acting like she was reading because she knew education was the key to get him out of that, to get him out of the projects, to get him off of welfare. He grew up in that system, but she made a decision early on, I'm going to invest in my kids' education. And now, he's a neurologist, one of the top neurologists in the country. He's now
in the world.
Yeah, in the world. Now he's working in the government, making limited income compared to what he was making as a doctor at the time. Yeah. But he shows us, and I hear people criticize him all the time, well, he got benefits to go to school and all that kind of stuff, but he used it to advance himself and his family. Now, that's not a handout. That's a handout.
Corey, I was an adult before I realized that my mom, I really recognized that my mom really just read the Bible, but not the newspaper. And I asked my mom, I said, Mama, you never read the newspaper. Why'd you buy the newspaper? She said, for y'all to read.
And I believe, as a pastor, I've always had the mindset, you have the Bible in one hand and you have the newspaper in the other. Because the Bible speaks to the newspaper, and the newspaper speaks to the Bible. This stuff that's happening is not new. The Bible's already told us this is going to happen. In the books of prophecy, we saw the thing. People will become lovers of themselves. They'll be falling away. They will come up with their own ideas about what truth is. All of this is real, man. We're seeing the manifestation of what had been spoken of in the scriptures for thousands of years, that we were going to become a people who thought we were smarter than God. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of the policies in our community, that are enforcing. I don't even care if you're a Christian as much as you understand morality is important to society.
It's not, there was an evolution of do your own thing. So do your own thing, became do any damn thing.
Here's the phrase is really popular today. This is my truth.
Yeah.
It can't be your truth. Truth is truth. And it's absolute. Here's an example I share with people all the time. If I have a ruler and I draw a straight line, depending on the angle, the line is straight, but the standard could be wrong. I've drawn a direct line, but not a straight line. So oftentimes we make the standard ourselves. Okay, well, they don't do as much as I do. They don't drink as much as I do. They don't cuss as much as I do. They don't, sleep with people not, and we make ourselves the standard when we're not the standard. The standard is the truth. And once you understand, okay, this is the standard, I got to measure up to the standard, but everybody wants to navigate their truth. So it can't be their truth or our truth. It has to be the truth.
Yeah, it's like, if everyone can have their own truth, there can be no truth.
There can be no real truth. 1 + 1 is 2, period.
Well, I think people confuse truth with perspective.
Yes. And perspectives
and
can
opinion,
vary.
And opinion.
Opinions can vary, but truth can't.
You have your own truth.
Yeah, that doesn't make philosophical sense.
You can choose. You can choose your own sex.
What you identify as.
Well, I tried to identify as the Empire State Building to collect some rent on Facebook, but that didn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't.
Man, I want to thank you for coming on the show, Corey.
Thank you for having me.
You enjoy seeing you all the time. You know that.
Let's keep the conversation going.
Oh, yeah.